Hello YouTube, welcome back to my playthrough of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. We're gonna continue from where we left off. So Barrick Van Zeek's trial continues. I feel like it's gonna get even crazier. Let's continue from where we left off here. And if you guys enjoyed this series, please do drop a like because it does help this series out a lot. 2nd November, 12:33 p.m., the Old Bailey, defendant's antechamber. Oh, there you are, Otto. What kept you, my dear fellow? Hello, Mr. Sholmes, Gina. You sure about what you said in there? That the boss, you know, actually died the day before? It's pretty hard to swallow. Yes. I was shocked by the revelation too, Gina. As was I, possibly more shocked than both of you. It's not a competition, Mr. Sholmes. But I was more shocked than all of you put together. This is the autopsy report in question, is it? Yes, it's strange that there's no time of death noted. I suppose there's a simple explanation, or perhaps it was a deliberate omission. That's also a possibility. Oh dear. If it was deliberate, that means that there's a huge conspiracy here, and parts of the government are in on it then. It puts me in mind of the last case we worked on, Dr. Seif. I know. Anyway, it seems that on the day before Lord Van Zeeks discovered his body, Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League, so perhaps something happened with them. Come to think of it. You had trouble with those League men too, didn't you, Mr. Sholmes? You were taken in by their trick. No. Naturally, I wasn't taken in, as you put it. My sleuth hound interest was merely piqued slightly by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income. And that scent masked the underlying scent of deception, I suppose. The two criminals in question are the pair we saw being arrested yesterday, aren't they? In Mr. Sholmes' suite, I mean. That's right, Susie, and it was me what took him in. Thanks to a tip-off by a good law-abiding citizen. Indeed, yours truly. So it's going to be that pair in the witness stand next, is it? Something doesn't quite make sense to me, though. The day before Inspector Gregson was found, you hadn't had trouble with the Red-Headed League yet, had you? Why would the inspector have been investigating them? Well, the likely explanation would be that the Gregson's own sleuth hound interest was piqued by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income. No, there's something else to this, why he was investigating the Red-Headed League. So the Red-Headed League, again guys, it's that newspaper ad, remember, that was shown, that suspicious ad. An advertisement from the newspaper that's entitled to the Red-Headed League. It seems suspicious in nature. On account of the bequest of the late Ezekiah Hopkins of Lebanon, Pennsylvania, USA, there is now another vacancy open, which entitles a member of the League to a salary of £4 a week for purely nominal services. All red-headed men who are sound in body and mind and above the age of 21 years are eligible. Apply in person on the morning of the 31st at the large park on Lime Street. There's a reason that Gregson was investigating them. Don't tar I'm with the same brush as you, Sholmes. Yes, well... Then there's the whole issue of Inspector Gregson being investigated by Lord Van Zeeks for some reason. The Reaper, the Red-Headed League, Inspector Gregson, Lord Van Zeeks, and Kazuma. I feel as though he knew we'd arrive at this point somehow. Gosh, I think you're right. What's he really trying to achieve here today? All the answers will soon be revealed. Observe the time, my dear fellow. This recess will be over very shortly. Yes, you're right. Kazuma was determined that he should be the one to prosecute this trial. And he was determined that I should take the defense. Just what is it that he's hoping to make me see, I wonder? I get the feeling we're a long way from the end of this trial yet. Yeah, we are. This trial's getting crazy. Are you ready then, Miss Susato? Yes. Second November, 1 p.m. The Old Bailey courtroom. Okay, here we go. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the closed court hearing of Barrick Van Zeeks, here present, who stands accused of murder. Now then, Prosecutor Asoji. My lord? Have you summoned the witnesses as requested? Yes, the 2 members of the Red-Headed League who planned and carried out the deception. They arrived not long ago from the local prison by police carriage. Very good. I got a bad feeling about these witnesses. Bailiff, usher the 2 men into the courtroom. These 2 guys, I felt that I'd see them again. Why are you eating in court? These 2 men are currently being held by the police on suspicion of attempted extortion. You may omit your occupations, but state your names now for the court. I am Fabien de Rousseau, a descendant of the Great de Rousseau family from Nice and France. And my name is Peppino de Rossi. I am the 3rd son of the great Familia de Rossi, the landowners from Napoli. The 2 men first became acquainted at a boarding school for European nobility. Those who graduate from Temzig are the future leaders of Europe. But do you have any idea how boring it is to be born with noble blood? Alors, I make it my mission to get the better of the world by employing the little gray cells of my brain. That is all I'm trying to do, So, that's the only reason for this whole grand deception you've been carrying out. Oui, you could say that. I know that oui in French means yes. Not bad, He has the grand ideals, but the petty plans. This strange combination is the charm of the hilarious brothers. See, Capo? Listen to me, Peppino. I have 2 things to say to you. Hey, Che, are you all about to tell me one of your grandi anecdotes? Viva! Firstly, I want you to stop calling me this Capo. And secondly, we are not the hilarious brothers. This is serious business. Cibello, there it is, the Capo's trumpa card, the furrowed brow. It is deep, Capo, the furrow and the meaning of your words. The court has been led to believe that under the banner of the Red-Headed League, you have conspired to swindle money from unsuspecting members of the public. Is this true? Oui, c'est ça. And what exactly was the nature of this deception by which you planned to defraud? Alors, I will explain it. No, Capo. Leave it to, me. As you see, we both have the vivid red hair, no? At school, we were teased for this without pity. The Capo here, he was many times behind the schoolhouse, crying like the Trevi fountain. Well, I'm assuming De Rossi is from Italy, and I know that the De Rosso is French, but I can't do an Italian accent. We, thus dogs, one day the world will respect us redheads. Oh, well, he could be French also, I don't know. Every night he would bury his, head. C'est, bien, Peppino, enough. I will explain the rest. The first step was, the newspaper advertisement. About 1 week before the plan was put into operation, we listed the name notice in every paper in London. Yes, we saw that notice. It was this one, I believe, entitled to the Red-Headed League. The newspaper again. Oui, c'est ça. I am honored that you have seen it. It states that the only condition for joining the league is having flame-colored hair, and that if you satisfy the interview panel and are admitted into the league, you could receive a weekly income of £4. That's a lot of money back then. 1880, on the date specified, redhead hopefuls gathered in droves at a park specified in the advertisement. And from each person present, this pair took on an application fee of 5 shillings. And with the money to France, it was a plan most elegant, none? No, it was most dishonorable. But to be frank, I'm stunned anybody was foolish enough to be taken in by such an obvious trick. The park was described by one witness as choked with red-headed folk like a coster's orange barrow. And the day on which all these men gathered to apply was the day before the victim was discovered. Crucially, these two men spoke face-to-face with every single person present that day. I have seen more red-headed people in one day than I will see in the rest of my life. See. And now, every time I see the capo's hair, I feel sick to my stomach. Anyway, why have we been summoned here today? Sorry? The date for our trial was not until tomorrow, I was told. Naturally, neither of these men have been told any details about this trial. They've only been shown this photograph. Very good. So, Mr. De Rousseau and Mr. De Rossi, you will now give your formal testimony to the court on the subject of the gentleman pictured in this photograph. Of course, we are always ready to help with the law. Well, you just admitted to breaking the law before and being scammers. Okay, let's hear this. I'm curious on this. We had more than 1,000 red-headed people assemble in the park on Lime Street that day. But I don't recall the man in this photograph. I, Capo? None. I don't remember him. Obviously, he is dead now, but I assure you, he was not in the park. Alora, this victim is nothing to do with us. You have a lot to answer for, Rapino. It's your fault that we got caught in the first place. So in real life, you know, you wouldn't have two witnesses testifying at the same time. It just wouldn't happen. You've given sworn testimony that this man in the photograph was not present. Can you be certain? I am quite certain. We did not interview this man. Nobody looking like this came to the park. This I can promise. It must be noted that you have been arrested for a grand deception, however. Accordingly, this court has little confidence in your assurances. Yeah, you know, these aren't reliable witnesses. These two guys are scammers. You can't bring these guys in as witnesses. Oofa, with this attitude, we get nowhere. He's really sulking now. This confidential document was obtained directly from Scotland Yard. It records an entry from the inspector's private diary dated the day before the incident. It reads, Lime Street, Red-Headed League, undercover. Ah, I have the answer. Maybe there was another similar event in the park on the day in question, That is ridiculous. There's no question that Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League. Which means, it's quite possible that's when he was killed. Very well. The defense may proceed with the cross-examination now. Yes, my lord. The man in the photograph. We had more than 1,000 red-headed people assemble in the park on Lime Street that day. Well, how did you know that Inspector Gregson wasn't in that crowd then? Hold it! 1,000 people. That's a very big crowd. It was quite a spectacle. Red-heads had come from all over the capital. See, the capo here, he has the magnetismo animale, Nobody else could attract so many people. If I could be born again, I would be the capo. All those people wanted was the money, Peppino, the £4 per week. Are you suggesting that you spoke personally with all 1,000 applicants? That we did, because every one of them paid us 5 shillings. Wow, if you had like 1,000 people and each one paid you 5 shillings, that's a lot of money they scammed. We take their names, and we take their money, and we take their addresses as well. Then I tell them we take some days to let them know by a post a finito, maybe 2 minuti a person. We start early in the morning, and we stop late in the night. So, you earned 5,000 shillings in one day. That's a small fortune. Who'd have thought there was 1,000 such gullible heads in London to start with? One of whom was a great detective with chemically altered hair. That's Sholmes there. but I don't recall the man in this photograph. I, Capo?
Hold it!
He doesn't look at all familiar. No, I don't think so. And this is a wig, He was trying to trick us. I do not like the people who are trying to trick the other people. But you're tricking other people out of their money. Says the con artist. If between them they interviewed 1,000 people with red hair, it would be unreasonable to expect them to remember every face. No, Signore. I may be small, but my memory is very large. I never forget a thing. In my opinion, I do not think this man was in the park. But he's not going to give the court a definite, it seems. Hey, Capo, you didn't see a man like this, huh? No, I don't remember and obviously he is dead now, but I assure you, he was not in the park.
Hold it!
But according to what you said, you spoke with 1,000 or more people that day. Oui, that's true. My eyes were burning by the end of the day. Surely then, you can't actually remember every single face. How are you so certain, exactly, that this particular man wasn't present? Normally, the red hair is very distinctive, but not when you have 1,000 redheads crowding around, then it's just an eyesore. But if there was some other information you could give us, maybe then we would recall. That is not the line, Peppino. Remember, we do not remember We are sure of that fact, If there was a man with a red earpiece, but his mustache did not match the color, then I do not think I could have forgotten Kazuma said these two had only been shown the photograph and they'd been told nothing else at all. But what if I fed them just one other detail about the victim? For example, his fish and chips. I mean, his profession wouldn't be relevant. Because, I mean, it's either his name. He could have given them Hugh Boone as his name. That's also a possibility. But his fish and chips, he always has that with him. I can certainly appreciate that just knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you remember in this situation. But what if I told you that the man was always munching on a packet of fish and chips? Do you remember a man who was eating incessantly? Not really. I was looking only at the heads of the applicants. I wouldn't have noticed the fish and chips in any more than the caviar and smoked salmon. Or spaghetti meat. I love the spaghetti. Really? I had no idea. You can't eat in court. Tell them again what you said before, Peppino. Si, Capo. Si. I say it again and again. Allura, this victim has nothing to do with us.
Hold it!
But we only have your word for that. See, but what else can we do, True. Oofa, we are not having much of fun these days. First we are arrested, then we are shown the horrible picture of a dead man. And now you question every single thing we say. We are the victims here. No, you're not. You're scammers. Capo? No, you were caught carrying out a plot to swindle hundreds of innocent people. You had to bring it up, It's not fair. Capo? You have a lot to answer for, Peppino. It's your fault that we got caught in the first place.
Hold it!
What do you mean by that? Cavallo, you promised not to say, Capo? After we had taken all the money that day, we should have left the country. That was my plan. I left the purchasing of the tickets for the ferry to Dunkirk to my companion, but he bought them for the wrong day. Oops. See, but it's an easy mistake to make, the 1st to 31st. Boff, I have no sympathy for you. We were on an all day late for the boat because of your stupidity. And it's only because of this that the so-called great red-headed detective caught us. He's talking about Sholmes. Capo, you know what I think? This is the work of God. Is a holy punishment, Peppino, for the last time. This is not only holy punishment. This is only your fault. Don't blame God for your unholy mistakes. You are making me sick with anger. Maybe I make a mistake, but when it's time to eat the pasta, no one is a faster. And I've seen the evidence. They haven't told us much we didn't already know. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, if it was in the inspector's diary, it seems likely he must have gone to Lime Street that day. And yet, these two both claim they didn't see him. I have to say, they don't appear to be telling lies. Well, they are experts in deception, don't forget, sounding plausible in their specialty. They may be lying simply to avoid being implicated in this case as well. Surely, if they were truly experts in deception, they wouldn't have been caught. Well, yes, you do have a point there. It seems to me like we need more information. Definitely.
Hold it!
Okay, let's try his name here. Okay, skip through this here. It might have been the second one that we had to go to again. Oh no, it's this one. Okay, his name. Let's try his name. I can certainly appreciate this knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you remember this situation. But what if I told you that the man's name was Gregson? The man in the photograph is a Monsieur Gregson? Try a Monsieur Hugh Boone. Names, they're boring. I did not listen to any of them. Oh. It was not a real interview, huh? It was just for a show. Why would I remember the names? That's right. This changes nothing. The man in the photograph was not there, as we have already said. I see. It seems there's little to be gained from pursuing this point further. Tell them again what you said before, Peppino. Si, Capo, si. I say it again and again. I guess we'll tell them that the guy was a cop. If we tell them that he was a police officer, they might freak out. Let's see.
Hold it!
Okay, skip through this here. Let's tell him that he was a police officer. I can certainly appreciate this knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you remember this situation. But what if I told you that the man in the red hairpiece was actually a detective? The man is a photograph, a detective. Yes. It would appear he found your notice in the paper suspicious and decided to investigate incognito. Sorry, but this changes nothing. Oh, what is this?
Excuse me.
Something to add, Mr. De Rossi? What is this? Che? Si. I am always adding something. Parmesan, olive oil, pepper. What I mean is, do you not agree with your friend's last remark by any chance? Eh? What did he just say about the detective? Yes, that. Keep your mouth shut, Peppino. You have said enough already. But why, Capo? What is the problem? There was a man who said, I am an inspector from Scotland Yard. What? Why would he admit to that when he's undercover? That makes no sense. Something's not right here. Order, order, order. Explain this vault face in your testimony, witness. It's simple. A man who was at the park said to us that he was an inspector. There was no such man. Madai, what are you saying, Capo? Have you forgotten I have forgotten nothing. Nobody like this came to the park. Basta, Capo, basta. You beat me at many things, but not to the memory and the meals. Like I said, when it's time to eat the pasta, no one is faster. But you are inferior to me in every other way.
Objection!
Oh, Kazimo's not happy too. Trop tard, the damage is done. Indeed it is, sir. Oui, there was a man who came to the park, and what he said was an inspector from Scotland Yard. However, he looked nothing like the man in the photograph. He was someone else. How can you be so sure? Exactly. Because, to start with, his face was completely different. See, it's true, it's true. The man who came was a younger. I wonder. His face was clean-shaven, his eyes were sadder, his chin was thinner. Oh no, wait. Was this him? Was this the guy who approached him? Mr. Vigil. I wonder. No resemblance whatsoever, then. Anyway, I was not going to be fooled. I took the obvious precaution and said to him, if you are really a detective, show us the proof. See, the capo here, he doesn't take a no nonsense, aye? But he was well prepared. He said he had identification. Identification? You mean official police inspector's identification? That is most unconvincing. Sorry, my lord. Counsel, no incognito inspector would offer his identification for inspection. It's quite out of the question. Definitely. Why would he expose his true identity? Yeah, exactly. There's something's not right here. Clearly, the papers were fake. Certo, capo, you are a genius. As we can say in Italia, it takes a thief to recognize another, aye? And what happened after he announced that he was a detective? He became very annoying. He said, you are under investigation. Why would a detective say that you're being under investigation? So I took his papers from him and chased him out of the park. It was fantastico. And look, here's the identification. So you stole it from the man. He had it coming. He made us very scared. But he was not who he said he was. Indeed, the person described does not appear to have behaved as a true inspector would. However, I believe it would be prudent for these identification papers to be entered into evidence. But I like them. The identification of a man claiming to be a detective inspector, confiscated by Mr. De Rousseau and Mr. De Rossi. Now, let us return to the witness's testimony. Let's look at these identification papers. Metropolitan Police warrant card. Well, I suppose we should see what this inspector's identification looks like inside. Yes, it definitely looks fake, doesn't it? Out of interest, what name is given? Probably just something plucked out of the air. It's Tobias Gregson. What? Wait, what? Ha, he said it too. This is Scotland Yard insignia. Looks genuine to me. But how? And the department identification number details are all correct as well. Since when have you known those? Do you mean to say... I know it seems incredible, but yes. I think this is a genuine identification book issued by Scotland Yard. But that's unbelievable. This is the real thing after all. Inspector Gregson's police identifications, the official warrant card issued to him by Scotland Yard. And so these guys claim that they didn't see any Gregson. We can present this now. Hang on. Oh, we skip through this, okay. This we've seen already. I wonder which one I go to, but I don't recall the man in this photograph, aye, Capo?
Objection!
Okay, it works on this one then. I wonder if I could ask you to examine this identification book very closely. Because they said, we just asked them if you met a Gregson, and they said no, and the identification book says Gregson. Miss Lestrade? Why Miss Lestrade? What is your intention here, counsel? Is this really a fake or is it genuine? That's the question, which we can't answer ourselves.
Objection.
Don't be ridiculous. No Scotland Yard detective would allow his or her identification to be stolen. That is the boss's. No question about it. It can't be. As I suspected. The undercover detective who attended the Red-Headed League's enrollment on the day in question was the real Inspector Gregson. Or it was somebody that had his identification. It doesn't mean it was him. It could have been the killer that had his ID. Was the real Inspector Gregson carrying out an incognito investigation? Order. But if the boss had his identification stolen, he would have reported it straight away, unless he was already dead. I mean, he was always on me about it. If you lose something, report it at once, he'd say. Could it be, then, that the inspector was physically unable to report it? Physically? What are you saying? Unable to? You're not suggesting, yes. Yes, it's quite possible that he was killed before he had the chance to report his identification stolen. No. Who is this imposter that stole Gregson's ID? If it's not these two guys, order. The defense posits that the victim was killed a day before his body was discovered at a different location. Do you two have anything to say about that? I know nothing. I don't know nothing. Pull yourself together, Peppino. Mon Dio, you can't behave a little more like a master criminal than that, none? Now I wish I had a return to Italia. So stop crying, Peppino, please. Otherwise, Lummy, stop your whining and start talking, exactly. Well, I believe the court will need to hear your story in considerably greater detail. I know nothing. I don't know nothing. But you will tell everything. Or face the worst possible outcome. I like that he's, Kazuma has no toleration for liars. You will dry your eyes and testify again. About these identification papers and the precise circumstance under which you came by them. For crying out loud. Witness testimony. The detective and the identification. Okay, hold on one moment, guys. I'm just gonna make some tea right now. I just want to drink something, water, some tea, or some tea right now. Before I continue this, I'm just a little tired too. Just need a little caffeine to wake myself up. Sorry about that, everyone. I just wanted to get some tea because I was just getting a little tired here. So usually some tea just wakes me up. But anyways. Let's continue from where we left off here. Let's see what's going on exactly. The detective and the identification, because something's not right here. I'm starting to think that Mr. Vigil is the one who met them, because remember they said that he had no beard. And that's Vigil. It was what he described earlier sounded like Mr. Vigil. So, the detective and the identification. Let's see. The truth is, we took I'm prisoner and kept I'm for the night at our secret hideout. Even though I didn't think he was a real detective, I was too scared to let him go that day, just in case. We took the man's identification from him and shut him in the room next to ours. There might have been a little tussle, but we did him no harm, and the next morning we let him go. He spent the night in the nice room. It was a nothing like prison, really. Nice room. This is outrageous. You imprisoned the man. But no, see, no. It was not like a prison. He was a very comfortable and a calm and a happy. Yeah, nobody is happy while they're being held against their will. I can tell you that. Aye, Capo? It was never part of my plan. I swear it. Oofa, so you think it was my fault, aye? Just because I got the date of the ferry wrong by one a little day. I do not think it was your fault, Peppino. I know it. No. Per favor, Capo. It is not affair. You shall have plenty of time for squabbing back at the prison, gentlemen. Uff. I don't believe this. How could he have been a real detective? Counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination. So on the day before the incident, Gregson spent the night confined in this pair's hideout. But where is his hideout? The detective and the identification. The truth is we took I'm prisoner and kept I'm for the night at our secret hideout.
Hold it!
Do you realize what you're saying? You have to believe me, I never intended for that to happen. And I'm sure the detective did not intend it either. Do you think? But there was nothing else I could do. See, nothing else. This was the first crime for the capo. He was at the end of his wits. I've told you before, Peppino, that is not the way to describe a criminal mastermind. What about this hideout of yours? An old empty house behind the park on Lime Street. We rented the place for 2 days. It was an inspired idea by the capo here. An impulsive idea, I would say. No, not impulsive, inspired. Aye, Capo? What am I supposed to say to that, Peppino? Sorry, my allergies. And it was in the house described that you confined Inspector Gregson, was it? Oui. But you have to remember, I was under the impression that he was a pretender, not a real inspector. That doesn't quite add up, though. If you didn't think that the man was a real inspector, there would have been no reason to take him prisoner, would there? None. You are right, but we couldn't be completely certain. Even though I didn't think he was a real detective, I was too scared to let him go that day, just in case.
Hold it!
Too scared. Why? Because, why had he come to the park? We didn't know. There was a chance that he had seen through my plan. And if that was the case, he would go straight to the police station to blow the whistle on us. Even if he was just feigning to be an inspector, he was up to no good, without a doubt, I think most people would agree that it's you two who were up to no good. Well, see, you may be right. Aye, Capo? The point is, we were not able to escape from England immediately. That is why we had no choice but to take the man prisoner. What I don't understand is, why the inspector felt the need to show you his identification in the first place. See, I ask myself the same question. We were writing down the names and addresses of all the people who we took 5 shillings from that day. I have forgotten what name he said, but the address, it startled me. See, address, Scotland Yard Homicide Division, he said. What? He probably didn't like your face, Peppino. Anyway, I was not rude, I just politely asked him why he had said it. And that's when he started to say he was an inspector. Not long afterwards, he took out his identification. What was Inspector Gregson playing at? That wasn't Inspector Gregson. Tell the court what happened next. You took him back to your hideout, you say. See, we did a. We took the man's identification from him and shut him in the room next to ours.
Hold it!
That being this identification book here, correct? See, that is the one. What made you believe that it was a forgery? I never seen a real one, of course. But he was so suspicious, this man. Allura, I was thinking it must be falso. Aye, capo? It is just as Peppino has said. We were convinced it was not genuine. And so together, the hilarious brothers, we took the man captive. All we did was shove him inside a locked room. Then we made preparations to transport all of the money. In for a penny, in for a pound. There might have been a little tussle, but we did no arm, and the next morning we let go.
Hold it!
What do you mean by a little tussle exactly? Boff. It was nothing, just a minor incident. The falso inspector, he was a real piece of the work, aye, capo? What happened? Oofa, it was a disaster. We gave him a nice room, and what does he do, In the middle of the night, he tries to escape through the ventilator. Can you blame him? We chased him, bien sir, and we caught him again. Can you blame us? Well, yeah, you imprisoned the man. Wait, you didn't shoot the man in your haste, did you? Zud, what do you think we are? Of course not. I simply cut old off I'm again and took him back to the room. What is this?
Excuse me.
Mr. De Rossi, is something wrong? Me? Something Mr. De Rosso just said seemed to make you, well, it seemed to make you act even more strangely than usual. What was that all about? Cavallo, at times like that, you don't want to have the capo after you, believe me. And I speak from a personal personal experience. That is enough, Peppino. There is no need to say more. The truth is, the night before we put the Red-Headed League plan into action, I was scared. It was not fair to the capo, but I tried to run away. It's a shame you didn't manage it. But the capo here, he came after me like the turbine, and he dragged me back to the house, kicking and screaming. I still have the bruises to prove it. Aye, capo? Bruises, you say? You wanna see, You wanna see my fantastico bruises? No, thank you. That's enough now, Peppino. No one wants to look at any part of you. What to do, I show you, or I don't. I show you, or I don't. You do, now. Allura, if everyone wants to see, then I do it. Echo, you see? It's still very visible, That red ring around your neck. You got that when you were dragged back to the house. See, the capo sometimes he is very rough, and I said that's enough. Peppino's neck is nothing to do with what we are talking about here. You have my word. Yes. What is your opinion, counsel? About this red ring around Mr. De Rossi's neck, I wonder, does it matter? What could that be? Could that be relevant to anything here? Let's see. I'm starting to think maybe that was actually Vigil's room. That the framed photo, because he had the photograph of Miss Vigil. It is relevant because we could check Inspector Gregson's body to see if he has that red ring around his neck, and I can't see if he does or not. It's important. Mr. De Rossi, I'm going to have to ask you to amend your testimony with details about that mark on your neck. Aye, Capo, you see? Everyone is interested in what I say, huh? Ugh. Very well. You will amend your testimony as requested, Mr. De Rossi. CC, if you really want to know. He tried to escape, but the capo put the collar on him and dragged him back, like what he did to me, see?
Hold it!
Are you saying that red mark was caused by... CC, a big collar made from the leather. Collar? A leather collar. Is this true, Mr. De Rosso? What? We had Saint Bernard one at home when I was younger. It is a souvenir from that time with a very strong chain. A strong chain? And you put that around your friend's neck? I'm sorry. I was so angry that he was leaving me alone. You did not have to tie the chain to the leg of the bed, though, I would not have tried to run again. You didn't do that to Inspector Gregson as well, did you? Treat the people equal, is the capo's here motto, aye? It's starting to sound a lot more like a prison all of a sudden. The capo is a tough, but the capo is a rough. His friend is making him look really bad. I shouldn't have done it. So, the following morning, when you released the inspector, he had the red ring around his neck, just like a me. Pepino, si vous plate. Leave it now. What does that mean in French? Can anyone translate in the comments? Now you know, the capo here, you don't want to tangle with him, aye? But for the inspector, is not so bad. He spent the night in a nice room. It was nothing like prison, really.
Hold it!
You took away the man's freedom. However comfortable you make it sound, you were still holding him prisoner. If you say that, then I say this. There is something that takes away our freedom too, the lack of money. So we are the prisoners as well, All of us. Not really. Huh? No money, no freedom. This is the truth. It makes me mad, and it makes me sad. What can we do? Well? If you feel so disenfranchised, take money to court. Though, it'll cost you, of course. Oofa, there you have it. You see? That is why we need the Red-Headed League. To fight for the justice. Perhaps he has a point. No, Mr. Naruhodo. All we did was to give the man a comfortable place to sleep for the night. And you say it was a prison, huh? Perhaps he has a point again. No again, Mr. Naruhodo. You should have heard him snoring. Madia, die. If anyone was disturbed, it was us. Not much to go on, really. Their testimony does make me wonder, you know. About this pocket watch belonging to the inspector, I mean. Yes, the one he had treasured so much, apparently. If he was confined but not restrained, as the witnesses are implying, he would still have been able to wind his watch. That's very true, yes. So did Inspector Gregson actually die when he was being held captive by these redheads? In which case, is it possible that these two young men are responsible for Inspector Gregson's... To be honest, I find that hard to believe. Perhaps we should try to find out exactly what happened. Very wise, Mr. Naruhodo, yes. This is important. I mean, I can't really see any red marks. I'm gonna try this. Let's see if it does anything.
Objection!
It does. So the day before his body discovered, Inspector Gregson was taken prisoner while working incognito. None, it was not like that. It was hardly a prison. It was an invitation to stay. It was Amelie. However you describe it, there's one glaring inconsistency that remains. Yeah, so I was right. He doesn't have the mark on his neck then, even though it's hard to see. I think that this is Mr. Vigil. I think Mr. Vigil was the person that was impersonating Gregson, and maybe it was Mr. Vigil's secret room, because he had a picture of Miss Vigil in there. There's, that's what I think at least, but why would Mr. Vigil impersonate Gregson? And is he responsible for his death? That's the question. What inconsistency is this, counsel? I would ask the court to look closely at this photograph of the victim, Inspector Gregson. You will see that there is no red ring visible around his neck. But that makes makes no sense. It was me who took the collar off the man in the morning. And I saw the red bruises on his neck, just like I have. Given that the mark is still clearly visible on this witness's neck, we'd expect to see bruising on the victim, who was put in the collar more recently than Mr. De Rossi. Indeed, that is most peculiar. It's because it wasn't Gregson they had prisoner. It was probably Mr. Vigil. But what we tell you, we say this from the beginning, many times. Peppino is right. The man in the photograph is someone different to the man we held captives that night. So it wasn't Gregson, I was right. Order. It would appear, then, that on the day before the incident, the man who visited the park on Lime Street posing as an incognito inspector was not Inspector Gregson at all.
Objection!
If that's true, however, how do you explain the inspector's identification? The killer took it. This is a genuine identification book issued by Scotland Yard. It's inconceivable that someone could have stolen such an important item from the inspector. The prosecution made that assertion itself. And we also know that the inspector had made a note about the Red-Headed League in his diary for that day, which surely means we can't divorce the two events completely. The inconsistency noted by the defense is most troubling. If it were the real Inspector Gregson whom these two red-headed gentlemen encountered, the fact that no bruising can be seen around his neck defies explanation. But equally, if they actually encountered an imposter, how did that person come to be in possession of the real Inspector's identification? He killed Inspector Gregson, that's why. Does the defense have some plausible explanation, counsel? Yeah, that's the murderer that they had. The whole thing defies explanation. It is for precisely these occasions that we keep meticulous notes on the court record, Mr. Naruhodo. Because these are the facts, and the facts cannot lie. No, the facts can't lie. Even when they point to something so incredible, it's almost unbelievable. Well, my lord, the true identity of the person who turned up in the park for the Red-Headed League's enrollment is revealed by information in the court record, I believe. Good gracious. Very tantalizing, Mr. Naruhodo. So why don't you help us all to see whatever truth it is that you're apparently seeing? Who exactly was this inspector that appeared before Mr. De Rousseau, Mr. De Rousseau and Mr. De Rossi? An imposter. Who was this? Yeah, it was an imposter. Though it seems incredible, I admit, the undeniable facts point to only one thing. Since no bruising can be seen on the victim's neck, the person who these two red-headed men took prisoner that day cannot have been Inspector Gregson. In other words, your whole argument up to now has been a waste of time. No, it hasn't.
Objection!
On the contrary, I haven't finished. What? There's no bruising on the victim's neck, so the question immediately posed next is, who exactly was this man in the park on Lime Street found to be carrying Inspector Gregson's identification? See, that's alright. We tell the same story every time. Whoever this man was, the capo dragged him from a pillar to a post with the dog collar. Mon Dio, Peppino, I was not so harsh as you say, So who was that falso inspector, Who was he? Clearly, the defense has an idea about that. About the true identity of the man these two imprisoned that night. I must ask the counsel for the defense to elaborate, post-haste. Who did the witnesses encounter in the park posing as Inspector Gregson? Here we go. This is gonna be good now. No. 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 It's Vigil. I think it's pretty sure it's Vigil. No. No. There's a lot of people involved in this case. He's 25? Man, he looks a lot... Okay. I'm gonna say it's Vigil. That's the only thing I can think of right now. Let's see if I'm right on this.
Take that!
It's surely no secret. This is the identity of the imposter. Oh, really? On what grounds? Well, I said it was no secret, but that part is. Dear me. If ever a penalty was in order, it's now, I feel. Like the punishment, the capo can lend you his collar if you want, Perhaps my learned friend needs to experience what it feels like to be dragged around the streets by the neck. I'll use my imagination, thanks. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, the red ring produced by the collar is clearly the crux of the matter here. Yes, the bruising around the neck. I must ask the counsel for the defense to elaborate post-haste. Who did the witnesses encounter in the park posing as Inspector Gregson? Man, who else could it be? I mean, would Barrick do that? I don't know. This case is definitely getting crazier and crazier now. I have to think really carefully now. Okay, we can eliminate these three right away, definitely. Definitely Mikotoba and Jigoku, they don't have anything to do with this. Gina, definitely not. Definitely not Strongheart. I mean, I don't know about Barrick. Not Evie. We already tried Dale Vigil. I can't see the prison warden has anything to do with this. It's not Gregson. Not Kazuma. I can't imagine these three. These three hadn't come in contact yet. Huh. Wait a second. Is that a bruise on his neck there? It is. Gossip. It's Gossip right there. Look at the bruise on his neck. But how the hell did Gossip get Inspector Gregson's papers? And Gossip wasn't very intelligent. So it makes sense that he would try to pose as an inspector. But why? What is going on here exactly? This is getting really strange now. And when did he get those documents? It's Gossip.
Take that!
Goodness me. Isn't that one of the witnesses who was in the stand in this very courtroom earlier today? A nameless man whose only occupation appears to be peddling hearsay to passersby. What on earth would a street seller be doing with a police inspector's identification papers? Witnesses, is this the man or not? What has happened to his lip? Huh? See, this man is not for the Red-Headed League, he's looking for the Twisted Lip League, no? Perhaps rather than making such a rash claim next time, you should bite your lip instead. It seems improbable, yes, but one undeniable fact remains. During his testimony earlier, I noticed something around the man's neck. A red ring of bruising. Eh? What? The defense demands that Mr. Gossip be brought back to the stand. What the hell is going on here right now? Order, order, bailiff. Bring the aforementioned witness back into the courtroom. Immediately. Well, the judge is pissed right now. Yeah, he has it. He has the... Okay. Well, I never. An undeniable ring of bruising indeed. And identical to that of the witness besides him. Now, what's going on here, eh? I've always had this me. It's a birthmark, isn't it? You don't get a birthmark like that. A birthmark, you say. I assume the reason you've been recalled to the stand has been explained to you. Somewhat about an inspector again. But I'm telling you, you've got it all wrong as usual. You're denying all knowledge of it. Well, of course I am. Are you trying to kill me with all this nonsense, eh? Well, at least you'll have more stories to peddle back on Fresno Street, won't you? Now, we're going to need you to testify again. And you, Mr. DeRosso, Mr. DeRossi, I'm sure you'll cooperate, won't you? Do we have any choice? No, you don't. We are in a big trouble, aye, capo? That's quite enough dilatory chatter. Proceed with the testimony. The inspector and the identification revisited. The man who claimed to be inspectors that day was definitely not this man. Is right, see, you think we would forget these grand lips, huh? I never leave Fresno Street, alright? I've no interest in any red-headed league. I'm all alone in the world, me. I've no kinfolk or nothing. Why would I be involved in something like that? Just look at me, eh? Does it look like I could carry off a disguise with a face like this? It would certainly appear that we have the wrong man. What have I been telling you, huh? There was no need for this pointless testimony. Ah. That's right. I'm just a simple peddler, remember? Fresno Street's all I know. How would I have come by a police inspector's identification book, eh? Well, yes, that's hard to explain, but he could have just taken it from the body at the crime scene. A brief cross-examination, but I think this was before. Yeah, this was before when Gossip had actually met them, so he couldn't have taken it from the crime scene then. Or wait, actually, Gregson was actually killed the night before, so yes, it is possible he was actually there much earlier. He was there earlier when Gregson could have been killed, and that's how he took Gregson's papers. A brief cross-examination, I think, counsel, very brief. Well, we can't rush this, Judge. Isn't there anyone in this courtroom who thinks I might be onto something? I stand steadfastly at your side, as always, Mr. Naruhodo. The inspector and the identification revisited. The man who claimed to be an inspector that day was definitely not this man.
Hold it!
So you say, but how can you be quite so certain? There is no need to hurt your hands on the deck, monsieur. Surely the reason is obvious, none? Because I have never before seen lips like this. Nevertheless, there's a clear red mark around Mr. Gossip's neck. And it looks very much like that left behind on the neck of your colleague by your prize collar. Mondio, with your words, it is like you tried to wring my neck. It does look very much like my neck, though, I... No, this is a birthmark, lad. The biggest lips in London are, and a neck to die for. They broke the mold when they made me. For the first time in my life. I feel lucky to have been born with red hair. And I thought being Japanese made you stand out in London. So you maintain that you've never seen this man before. Oui, c'est ça. I swear to it by the flames of my hair. So fierce pride has outgrown the frustration with your hair now, has it? Is right, see? You think we would forget these grand lips, huh?
Hold it!
Well, yes. I don't imagine I'll forget these lips in a hurry either. That is what I am saying. For some reason, it makes me want to eat. How did Fabian call it? An eclair. You know, I've never seen the hair as black as yours before either. Likewise, I'd never seen red hair like yours until I came to Britain. See, maybe as a national trait, huh? Maybe all the people from this man's country have the grand lips. No, lad. I was born right here on Fresno Street, and I've never left. Oofa, that is the problem, see? So you definitely didn't go to the park on Lime Street that day, Mr. Gossip. Now, how many times do you want me to say it, eh? I never leave Fresno Street, alright? I've no interest in any red-headed league.
Hold it!
So, you'd heard of the Red-Headed League, had you? You don't get a name like Gossip for nothing, eh? It's my business to know what's going off in town. I said I sold that tasty tidbit to a fair few redheads that came past me. Just between us, I even got Sandwich to cough up for it. Well, he does have a very red nose, if that counts. Who knows? But as you can see, my own hair has not got a hint of red in it. And in any case, Fresno Street's my patch. You won't catch me sidling off to some other part of town. No, sir, not likely. What's this?
Excuse me.
Mr. Deraso. We? Can I help you? Did Mr. Gossip's word just now lead you to remember something relevant, perhaps? It was the other day when I was looking for a place near the park, a small house or something. To be the headquarters of your red-headed league, yes. I visited an ousting agent on Lime Street, and there I saw this man was paying money to the agent. What? Mr. Gossip with a housing agent. Wait, he had some kind of contract in his and they were clearly discussing terms. Boo. No, you're mistaken, chum. I've never left Fresno Street, me, like I said before. Oh, he's getting nervous now. You're mistaking me for someone else. Someone with the same face. No, the capo was right. I remember it too. He was paying the man with the banknotes. With notes. Like I said, that wasn't me. I was curious why this man with the dirty clothes had so much money. So I looked at the name on the papers. And what name was written? Mr. Gossip? No, this man, he lies. He tells you that he has no name. But in fact, his name is Hugh Boone, is better than Mr. Gossip, I think. See, Hugh Boone? That's the name of the person who rented out the room. No! I'm a peddler of tidbits of information, like I said, on Fresno Street. And that's that. I don't much like folk talking about my personal life. But you gossip about everyone else's personal life, and you don't like people talking about your personal life. What an ironic character. How ironic is that? Indeed. And it is not the intention of the court to invade the privacy of witnesses. Very well. I shall respect your wishes, sir. The aforementioned name shall be redacted from all court records of this trial, assuming no objections.
Objection!
I'm sorry, my lord, but the defense does object. Because the name just mentioned has a very deep significance to this case. Good gracious, do you similarly object, Prosecutor Soji? As it happens, my lord, that particular name has already been mentioned during today's proceedings. Well, I never. In what capacity? Hugh Boone, the name of the leaseholder of the room. Yup. Let me put this very simply. The victim's body was discovered in your rented room. That's looking really bad for gossip now. I suggest, sir, that you start talking. Ha! I said it just like Kazuma said it. Well, alright. I suppose that might be the case. So your real name is Hugh Boone. Look, his name now changed, Boone. Well, just between us, I don't like to blow me own trumpet, but there's no finer peddler of tidbits in town. So I happen to be able to afford a grubby little room in a falling down backstreet townhouse. You do. And once every 6 months, I go and pay the rent to the agent on Lime Street. I remember now. There was 2 vulgar redheads in there last time. If either of us is a vulgar, is not a me. Think again, Peppino. Why didn't you bring this up before? It's like I told you already. I don't like talking about my personal life. I'm a tidbit peddler as far as everyone else is concerned. No fuss. No. He purposely withheld that information. Why would someone not say that a person was murdered in an apartment that they were renting? Why would, you know, really? And in real life, the court would find out what the person's name was. So somebody couldn't just come into court and say, my name is Gossip. Like, nicknames don't work in court. You can bring up somebody's nickname in court, like a street name, if it's relevant to a case. But calling somebody by their street name, that's not going to happen in real court. In real court, they're going to find out exactly what your name is. So coming into court and saying, my name is Gossip, isn't going to fly. It's not looking good for this guy right now. You will update your testimony to include this most surprising revelation, Mr. Boone. If I must. Yeah, you better. So the leaseholder Scotland Yard has been looking for since the body was discovered. Has been here under our noses all along. I read the room where that fella was found, it's true, for what difference it makes.
Hold it!
So, you live in that room, presumably, do you? No, I don't live there. What do you think? There's no bed, is there? Just a desk. Then, why would you want to rent it? Well, I don't think I should have to say, really. No, you better say. This is important to the case. Why are you renting a room with a single desk in it? And you don't want to say that somebody was found murdered in your room that you're renting? No, this wouldn't fly right now. Then how about the notice board in there? Which was covered from top to bottom in confidential documents only the police should have access to. No, that board's not mine. The inspector must have brought it along. It's only the other bits and bobs that belong to me, the desk and the chair and that. People don't generally carry enormous notice boards around with them. The real question is, why was Inspector Gregson killed there in your room? Well, obviously, I've not the faintest idea. I mean, it's causing me no end of bother, to be honest. You're not bothered that somebody was murdered in the room that you're renting? It seems to me that Mr. Gossip, sorry, Mr. Boone, would rather as little is known about his room as possible for some reason. That room is important somehow. Yes, it does come across that way. And more importantly, knowing that the scene of the crime is actually his room completely changes things. In particular, there's one part of his testimony that's really bothering me now. That's how I'm finally going to undo this man. Wait a second. Is he Mr. Vigil? Guys, look! He's Mr. Vigil. Wait. He's wearing a disguise. The nose is fake. The lips are fake. He's really Mr. Vigil. Look at it. The hair matches. The chin matches. I just realized it now. He's Mr. Vigil. So, I was technically right. When I said that Mr. Vigil was being held prisoner by them, I was right originally. So he put on a different disguise. He looks different than when he was captured by them. That nose and those lips are different. That's a disguise. I'm all alone in the world, me. I have no kinfolk or nothing. Why would I be involved in something like that? We got the picture of Mrs. Vigil. We're gonna bring that up in a little bit here.
Hold it!
You mean you have no family? No, none at all. So I spend my days on Fresno Street peddling tidbits to passerbys. Hoping, just between us, this is, that eventually someone else with lips like mine will come along. I don't think so. You may be right. Anyway, that mark on your neck is just too much of a coincidence for us to ignore. Well, what's a fella to do then, eh? If you don't believe me, we're at an impasse. And there's nothing I can do but flick me lip. It looks like I'm not going to get anywhere here unless I can produce some proof. You're basically saying I got dressed up and posed as some fancy inspector, aren't you? You're right, you're dressed up right now. That's not how he really looks. The lips are a fake too. Well, it's beyond me how you think I could do that. Just look at me, eh? Does it look like I could carry off a disguise with a face like this?
Hold it!
Maybe you could, say, with a mustache or a beard to cover up that lip. Aye, perhaps. But if I was going to stick some fake facial hair on to cover up this fine specimen, I'd end up looking like his lordship over there, wouldn't I? Oh, no, no, no. You don't want to disrespect the judge. You don't want to do that. Oh, no. Oh, no, no. Pardon? I assure you my lips are entirely unremarkable. And I would ask you not to cast such scrutinizing looks in my direction, counsel. Ah, sorry, my lord. He's the one who insulted you, not me. My imagination got the better of me there. Well, Inspector Gregson did wear a mustache, of course. You're right, he did. So, perhaps he was hiding something himself. He could barely have hidden a crumb in a mustache of that size. And anyway, the detective we spoke with had no facial hair at all. CC, the capo was right. He was a clean-shaven. It certainly seems beyond the realms of possibility that this witness could have disguised himself as the victim. Aye, it does, and it is. That's the extent of their testimony, is it? What's your feeling, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, what Mr. Boone says is undeniable. It would be all but impossible to hide those lips with any form of disguise. Perhaps yes, but nevertheless, the marker on his neck is equally undeniable, and it's identical to the one that Mr. De Rossi suffered. Yes, that's true. But why does this whole disguise idea just keep playing on my mind? Let's take a look at that picture again. Yeah, that's him. It's the chin and the hair matches perfectly. No family or nothing. This, on the desk. He says the desk was his property, the photograph here.
Objection.
If you have no kinfolk, as you put it, then explain why it is that among the spare furnishings we found this photograph in the room. Ah. I presume, as you've been renting the room, that this photograph belongs to you, does it not? Oh, well... Mr. Boone, drop the pretense, and tell the court exactly who you really are. I don't know what you mean. I'm a peddler, I keep telling you so. No, you're Mr. Vigil. You really don't need to bother with me. Please, just leave it alone. As the man says, leave it alone. Whatever the truth is about this man's life, it has no bearing on this case. Because it's simply not possible it's impersonating Inspector Gregson. He's in a disguise right now. That's not what he really looks like.
Objection.
I like this music. How can you be so sure? Just look at the man. No amount of disguise could ever hide those unmissable features.
Objection.
But what if we were to look at the other way around? What do you mean? Yes, counsel, what do you mean? Well, there's no denying that Mr. Boone's lip is very prominent indeed. But consider the possibility that his prominent lip is itself part of the elaborate disguise. I was right! I was right! He's in disguise right now. Yup, that's Mr. Vigil. Then hiding that prominent feature, in other words, revealing his true face, would make an utterly impenetrable disguise. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Hugh Boone? Oh, we got him. Ah. I love this music. That's the Ace Attorney theme. We're on the right track. When that music starts kicking in, it means you're on the right track. Good witness, are you still hiding the truth from this court? If that's a disguise, then underneath it, his true identity must be... Yes, that's right. There's really only one person he could really be. I was right originally when I said Mr. Vigil was kidnapped by them. My lord, the defense believes it can reveal Mr. Boone's true identity to the court. No, please, no. Very well then, counsel. What is the true identity of this peddler who simply goes by the name of Gossip on the street? Dally Vigil, here we go.
Take that!
Your real name is actually Mr. Vigil, isn't it? Mr. Dally Vigil. Yarg! I don't recall that name, counsel. Who is this Mr. Vigil? It's a name I encountered yesterday, my lord. It has to do with a certain client of Mr. Herlock Sholmes. A young gentlewoman came to the detective asking him to locate her missing husband. The woman in this photograph, in fact, this is Miss Vigil. What? From what I understand, you haven't returned home since the night before the inspector was found dead. But of course, on that night, you were being held captive by the two red-headed League men. And last night, you were put up by the prosecution service in preparation for testifying in this trial. Because we've been led to believe that you, Miss Venus, and Mr. Sandwich were all homeless. Being important witnesses in this case, we need to know where we could find you, of course. And that explains why you've not only been unable to return home, but also unable to contact your wife, who's been besides herself with worry, waiting for you at the Vigil residence. Now, just hold on a minute. I don't have the first idea. What I'm talking about, really. It's a simple enough matter to confirm my suspicions. All we have to do is pull off that disguise. No, please. Bailiff, bring soap, a sponge, and a wet wash bowl at once. Mr. De Rousseau and Mr. De Rossi, you will restrain the witness. Oui, my lord. See, my lord. I like how the judge asked the two scammers to restrain him. Oh, wow. No, stop. Get off. Don't. See, that is Mr. Vigil. I was right. Well, they're probably gonna get a lesser sentence because they helped with the case now. Well, we are now seeing your true features, I presume. Lift your head, sir, so the court can see your face. It would appear that the defense counsel's assertion was entirely correct. This has all been a very elaborate deception. So witnesses, tell the court, have you seen this man before? I don't believe it, but... See, there is no question. This is the inspector we saw in the park. Extraordinary. On the day of the Red-Headed League's enrollment, the man claiming to be Inspector Gregson, who appeared before Mr. De Rousseau and Mr. De Rossi in the park, was you, disguised as the inspector, or rather, was you posing as the inspector in no disguise at all. Mr. Vigil was formerly employed as the chief warder at Barclay Prison. The chief warder? Then your career had promise. Why would you why you would quite possibly have become the future governor of the prison? What on earth have you been doing peddling tittle-tattle on Fresno Street? Well, it's been 10 years since Mr. Vigil worked at the prison. 10 years. I'm really dreadfully sorry about all of this. Yes, it's true. I am Daily Vigil. And you were the chief warder at Barclay Prison 10 years ago. So where did Mr. Hugh Boone come from? Boone is the other me. It's a name I invented. Well, evidently there is a great deal under the surface here. I'll explain everything. I'll tell you just how wretched my life has become. As you say, it was 10 years ago now that my employment at Barclay's chief warder came to an end. Having left the prison service, I searched for some new occupation by which to earn a wage. But times were hard in London, and I found no suitable engagements at all. In desperation one day, I turned my hand at selling wares on Fresno Street. But your wife appears to know nothing of this. She still maintains that you were the chief warder at Barclay Prison because he never told her he got fired. I was utterly determined that my wife should not know of my failings, which is why I've never told her. I opened an account at the bank under the name of Hugh Boone, and I rented the cheapest room I could find on Fresno Street. The scene of the very crime we're investigating. Yes, that's right. A place from which I could emerge every morning at 8 as a squalid peddler, and transform myself back every evening at 5 into a well-dressed man about town before returning home. That quickly became my daily routine. I was puzzled by the lack of furniture in the room, but that explains it. But why on earth didn't you just tell us this in the first place? I have a wife, sir, and 2 sons, and without wishing to sound self-conceited, they regard me with some pride. I couldn't bring myself to disappoint them. So instead, you decide to conceal your occupation from them. Yes. I've made such a terrible mess of everything. Still, one thing doesn't add up. Why do you have Inspector Gregson's papers? No matter how many tidbits of information you could sell to passing gentlemen, even at 6 pence a piece, you couldn't hope to match the salary you must have commanded as the chief warder at the prison. Very true. Have kept your family in comfort despite 10 years of somewhat misbegotten employment. That was all thanks to Inspector Gregson. What? Inspector Gregson, what on earth? It was some years after I had invented Boone and begun my other life as a street seller. He, the inspector, that is, recognized me one day. Do you mean to say the victim was an acquaintance of yours? I knew him from my time working at the prison. When he saw what I'd become, he was deeply troubled for me and my family. And from that day forward, he visited me on Fresno Street with increasing regularity. Then one day, he asked me if I would carry out a secret assignment for him. A secret? What was it? I was to impersonate the inspector. What? What? Impersonate him? We always met in that little room so the inspector could brief me. Visit Orsi's tomorrow and take a statement from the proprietress. It was always something along those lines. Surveillance work, interviewing people. On those occasions, he would lend me his identification so people would believe who I was. My instructions were to make an impression, to let people know that Inspector Gregson had been at work. And for those services, he compensated me financially. A Scotland Yard inspector willingly relinquished his identification into your care with an intent to deceive. That, as I'm sure as I need to point out, is a very serious criminal offense. But why? What was the point of you impersonating him? I truthfully do not know. All I can say is that the inspector warned me on numerous occasions. Now remember, Vigil, I need your solemn word. You don't blab about this to anyone, alright? Ever. Even if Well, if I end up a croaker. In time, he started to bring papers with him to the room as well. It became something of a second office for him. So, in fact, the person who declared himself to be Inspector Gregson at the park on Live Street was really... Yes, it was me, acting on the inspector's orders. As usual, I removed my boon disguise, and then went as instructed to the park, armed with the inspector's identification book. It never occurred to me that the bruise on my neck might give me away. I'm starting to think he didn't have something to do with Gregson's murder. So who killed Gregson? What the hell is going on? Well, it would seem this confession completely destroys the defense's case. It's not good, yeah. Because I was thinking that he did it. But now I'm not so certain that he did it. I don't know. That story, as ridiculous as it seems, it is believable. Explain yourself, Prosecutor Asoji. My learned friend's assertion was as follows. The victim was killed at another location on the day before his corpse was discovered. At the hands of these two red-headed League men when they imprisoned the inspector. But no, that can't be. After all, it wasn't the inspector who went to the park that day, it was me. Oh goodness. Finally, we have, clarity. We had nothing to do with the murder of the inspector. And merci, Monsieur de la Defense, for proving it. What? Who's responsible? Order, order, order. Indeed, it would appear that we have reached a de facto conclusion of sorts. These witnesses had no involvement in the murder of the victim. Well, you don't know that 100%, Judge. We still don't... It looks like they're not guilty, but we don't know 100%. As proven somewhat ironically by the defense. Ugh. I hereby call an end to the cross-examination. This is not good right now. This is not good. Was that Kazuma? Pardon me, my lord, but with your permission, I would like to pose one further question to the witness. Kazuma? What question, counsel? It concerns the events of 10 years ago. I believe you would have been present at a very significant execution that was carried out at the time. 10 years ago? Yeah, the professor's execution, that's what he was fired over. The execution of the professor, the serial killer, Gregson Asoji, that was Kazuma's father. I want to know exactly what your involvement was. Oh. Answer me, man. One moment, counsel. Is this related to the current case? Naturally. It is the prosecution's belief that this case and the events of 10 years ago are inextricably linked. Does the defense concur, counsel? Kazuma, you're not yourself. You're not as calm and collected as usual. Poor Kazuma-sama. No wonder he's acting this way. Mr. Vigil's memories of what happened 10 years ago would tell the tale of Gregson Asoji's last moments, his own father. I know. I do understand that. But even so... Prosecutor Asoji. Do you genuinely believe that this question requires an answer in order to learn the truth behind Inspector Gregson's death? I need you to trust me. Please. Very well. Then the defense has no objection. I see. In that case, you will answer the question, witness. I want to know why he got fired. This I want to hear. The truth is, I remember very little of that time. No! No, this is a lie right now. I don't believe him. You got fired. This was your career, and you got fired over this. You would remember something like this 10 years ago. The specific thing you got fired over, you'd remember. You've forgotten? He hasn't. I'm sorry to say, yes. As I said, I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. No, you were fired. You're a liar. But for some peculiar reason, my memory of that events leading up to that moment is extremely hazy. He's lying. Does that not strike you as strange, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry? Well, 10 years ago is a long time, but to have forgotten the reason why he left such an important job. Like I said, Susato basically predicted exactly what I said. The reason that you... Even if it was 10 years ago, you would remember the exact reason that you got fired. You remember what happened. Yes, you're right. And not only that, Mr. Vigil's claim contradicts what we already know. The human spirit is a fragile thing. It's broken all too easily. Which is why we have a tendency to wrap it up for protection. Sorry? The human spirit? I'm afraid I don't understand what you mean. When we experience pain and suffering that we feel unable to bear, we block it out, obliterate it from our memories, seal it away. But it never truly leaves us. If the seal is broken, the memories resurface. And when they do, that fragile spirit may finally be crushed. But I really don't, you remember, Kazuma-sama. But if it must be crushed, then so be it. Because the truth will not stay buried. It's coming out one way or another. Good line there. I like that. Right. Now I understand. It's clear what his intentions are. He needs to expose the truth at any cost. Perhaps if I pointed out the contradiction in what Mr. Vigil claimed earlier, it might cause some crucial memories to return to him. But should I? Should I present the evidence or not? Do it. I have no idea how this is going to go, but this is a court of law, and I have a duty to pursue the truth. Mr. Vigil, I'd like you to look at this. Evidence that clearly contradicts your version of events. Dismissal note. Chief Ward Daily Vigil is relieved of his post with immediate effect for having violated Clause 132 Her Majesty's Conduct for Prisons. All rights to redundancy pay for and other financial benefits are fully revoked. Aiding and abetting the escape from this prison of convicts just prior to his execution. Details of the escape are still being investigated. Full cooperation of inquiries will be expected. Prison Governor Bailey Caden. Additional notes. Indications are that jailbreak plot was conceived prior to the convict's incarceration. It's believed that the convict engaged in some form of negotiation with prison staff in order to secure assistance. Full disclosure of information regarding these negotiations will be demanded. So he tried to help the professor escape. But why would he try to help the serial killer escape? That's the question. That was Kazuma's father. My theory is he feels he was going to be overseeing the execution of the serial killer. My theory is he might have thought that the professor was innocent. That's the only thing that I can think of on why he might have been thrown out. Who would throw away such a promising career unless he thought the man he was going to execute was innocent?
Take that!
Just a few moments ago, you made the following statement, saying that he resigned. I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. He was fired. Well, yes. In other words, you claim to have left at the post of Chief Warden of your own volition. Well, yes, of course. Why? Tell me. Do you remember seeing this document before? No, I don't. This is the dismissal notice ordering the immediate termination of a prison staff member's employment. A dismissal notice. And the name on the notice is yours, Mr. Vigil. What? What? It's mine? So you didn't resign from the prison service at all. For some reason, you were dismissed as Chief Warder for Barclay. No, there's been some mistake. I'm sure I tendered my resignation. This dismissal notice is nonsense. No, liar. He doesn't want to say what happened. Isn't it? If you were forcibly dismissed, there must have been good reason. Clearly, you did something. Mr. Vigil, it's time to break the seal and have you remember. According to the few remaining records, the final execution that you supervised was on the 17th of June 10 years ago. And on that day, something very serious took place at Barclay Prison. The 17th of June. Was that the professor's execution? Professor, as you were the chief warder at the time, it stands to reason that you would have been present throughout the proceedings. It does sound familiar. And yet, that execution never took place. The convict, ostensibly executed earlier that day, later re-emerged from his grave. And the coroner, remember, she lied too. The convict came back to life. In the cemetery in the middle of the night, there was a witness. However, the witnesses claimed that a moment after he saw the convict clambering out of his grave, a gunshot rang out from over his shoulder. Wait, was that Mr. Vigil who shot him? And the bullet pierced the professor's chest, killing him instantly. Those may have been the professor's actual last moments. Yes, yes. Seeing as you were in charge overseeing executions at the time, you must know the truth about what really happened. It's in your head somewhere deep down. Well, Chief Warder Daily Vigil? I know there are memories in your head that can explain what happened on the 17th of June 10 years ago. And now it's time for you to drag them up. Mr. Vigil? Yes, the whole prison. It was complete chaos. The prisoner escaped. He was killed in the cemetery. The shocking news ripped through Barclay like a hurricane. What? What? What happened? Order, order, order. Do you mean to say, Mr. Vigil, that your memories of the time have returned? My head, it's like some floodgates have been opened. The images, the screams. Oh my goodness. The papers. There were reports, articles about a man who'd seen a ghost. Yes, Enoch Drebber. But surely those reports were exaggerated. There were traces at the scene. Traces of what? In Lowgate Cemetery, at plot number 139, blood. Lots of blood. That's where the man was buried, of course. Obviously, something terrible had happened there. The depths of conspiracy and depravity from which this tale is emerging are quite staggering. I've reviewed the police records from the time extensively. A thorough investigation was conducted by Scotland Yard to ascertain how the convict managed to escape in the first place. And the conclusion reached by the investigation team was that a member of the prison staff must have been involved. Are you suggesting that a prison warder abetted the man's bid for freedom? That's what the document says. Yes. Yes, and I was suspected of doing it. Of using that mass murderer's execution as a way to help him escape. You did what? I remember now. The horror of it all is coming back to me. One evening, a few days after the execution, some detectives came to the prison. I was called to the governor's office at the top of the watchtower. I'm sorry, Daly. This is a serious business, but I cannot help you, no. As Chief Warder, you were responsible for overseeing the execution of 4A. Well, it seems the fellas at Scotland Yard want to have a few words with you about it. You'd better pack your things, laddie. You're to attend in person. As soon as he told me that, my mind just went completely blank. And the next thing I knew, the professor, the most hated killer in our country's history. And I let him escape. I'm finished. My life is over. Damn, that was a bit creepy. What is going on here? Order, order, order. Bailiff, fetch a doctor at once. Did he fainted? Court is adjourned for today with immediate effect.
So, with Mr. Vigil's collapse, proceedings came to an abrupt end for the day. Once again overshadowed by the legacy of that notorious killer, appearing like a cursed ghost ship on a foggy ocean. Lord Van Zeeks, Mr. Vigil, Kazuma, and Gregson. All of them bound by invisible chains anchored to the same wreckage in the murky depths of the past. But the miraculous light that had been trying to cut through the gloom and shine on those tragic events was playing on the edges of the truth at last.
Wow, this is getting really crazy. So it ends right here. So I'll have the next part for you guys as soon as I can. This is probably my favorite case so far. Of all the cases I've played, yeah, this is my favorite one so far. What on earth is going on here? Like, let me know what you guys think in the comments section. But now I'm starting to think another theory. What if Mr. Vigil was framed for helping the professor escape? What if it was actually a prison warden who actually did it? That guy, his boss. What if that was him, the big guy, who had actually framed him? Man, this is getting really crazy. But why did the serial killer? Why did somebody try to help the serial killer escape? The only conclusion I can think of is that somebody thought the serial killer was innocent, so they tried to help him escape. But what is going on here exactly? Let me know what you guys think down below. I hope you guys enjoy this, and if you guys do enjoy this series, please do drop a like, because it does help the series out a lot. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.